be, then I'll go. Thought that
Welcome to the channel, Grand Colombia, and welcome to Armenia, Colombia, where I'm sitting in an overcast day. It's actually overcast this week. No blue skies and sunshine for today. But we are in the winter time, which is the rainy season. And my temperature today, as of right now, if you can see that, 73 degrees. So it's a little chilly for here. It's typically high 70s, and sometimes it gets up into the low 80s. So today I got a treat for you. Not a treat for me, but a treat for you. What's the cost of living? What's the cost of living? So today I'm going to go over some bills that I have. And this came up because somebody asked me, the peso's exchange rate, it's been dropping. It's dropped quite a bit. And how's that affecting you? And what's it done to your costs? So we'll talk about that a little bit today. And one? What's one? Okay, one coffee maybe. Okay, so throat's getting a little bit better. Been having these. See if I can. What's that ring there? Look at that. Isn't that wild? It's like a ghost image. This is the best eating orange in Colombia. It's a navel orange from Florida. They have great juice oranges here, but they're not really, they don't really do much with eating oranges. So they import these. So when I do the cost of living information, you can ask questions about that. And then after that, we'll get to the question and answer. But first, we're going to cover some of the latest news stories here in Quindío. And this first one, this happened yesterday. This man, he's a biologist. He graduated from the University of Quindío, which was 2 blocks from my last apartment. He lived on the opposite side, the west side of the city. And that photo, where that is in Calarca, and it's this beautiful place, but it's, as you can see, there's kind of a sheer cliff. And according to the story, he was trying to get a photo with a couple of his friends. He slipped and he fell off. The fire department, the police, the national police, and the first aid units all went to rescue him. And excuse me. And he died. So it's kind of sad, but, you know, be careful. I already drank my coffee. This is blackberry juice. Here in Florida, navel oranges are imported from California. I know that's true, but we may get some from California once in a while, but usually there'll be a sticker, and this one I must have already peeled it off, and it'll usually say USA, Florida. So anyway, next news story. Where is that? Here we go. Vaccinations. They've signed a contract with AstraZeneca and Pfizer. And the first ones, well, the first order is 20 million doses, which is 10 million because you have to get 2 doses. And that begins in February. It was nice to see that Colombia was near the top of the list when it came to doling these things out. So that answers a lot of questions that people keep asking me. Are they going to get the vaccine there? Yeah. Okay. This was the 18th, 2 days ago. The mayor of Armenia came out and said that if hospital occupancy reaches 70% or over, bars and restaurants will close at 10 p.m. Currently, they're closing at 12 p.m. because we all know that after a certain time, that's when COVID comes out. Up until then, you're okay. But the reasoning here is it's not necessarily that the facilities are closed, it's that they can't serve alcohol. So technically that's what it is. Now, some places like bars, they say, well, if we can't serve alcohol, we might as well close. So currently that's at 12 o'clock midnight. And this is what he said 2 days ago, which leads me to the story today. As of yesterday, Condillo declares a hospital red alert, and they say that they're at 84%. And what red alert means is that all non-essential other medical things are put to the side, and it also means that you can't go out to a bar or a restaurant and drink alcohol after 10 p.m. So that's a national recommendation, but here they've been doing their own thing, which they're permitted to do. And we haven't really had any restrictions. So this probably won't last but a few days, because here for the hospital to reach that, there aren't that many hospital beds to begin with, and we don't have that many cases. So nobody here is worried about it or panicked about it when you've kind of been there, done that. And, you know, there's a little spike going on, but people aren't dying, contrary to, you know, you would think that everybody's just dropping dead, but, you know, we've still got like a ridiculously low, I forget the last count, but a month ago, it was 3 people had died since the beginning of this from COVID. Of course, I think they're a little more careful about calling a COVID death here. Okay, so, but that's, you know, that's what's going on. I keep getting asked, should I postpone the trip for another year or something like that? You can, but I don't know why. And Colombia is not worked up, you know, like they dropped the PCR test requirement for the airlines, for example, for people coming in. Their rationale is that the percentage of infections, and it's very similar to where people are coming from. So like people coming from US or the Europe or whatever, here, it's not like they're going to let those people in. It's going to cause a spike. I think here they're kind of figuring out the virus is going to do what the virus is going to do, and those things don't really impact it very much, which is why they haven't really been returning to lockdowns, because it never made a difference. Places that did and places that didn't, it really had no effect. Here in Armenia, we had a lockdown for those initial weeks, but after that, they lifted the lockdown. You could go out, and they had some restrictions for a while, but it never changed anything. And if you compared it to places that had lockdowns, if anything, the lockdown places seemed to have more of an issue, maybe because they weren't going outdoors. I don't know. So that's where we're at. If you want to come to Colombia, right now, there's really no barriers. There's no extra testing that you have to do. You don't have to get thrown into quarantine when you get here. So there you go. All right. So let's get to the cost of living stuff. Let me call it up here. Here we go. Share. I have purchased extra insurance for cancellation for any reason. Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. But it's looking like clear sailing. So we'll see. We'll see. You never know. You never know with this stuff when politics get involved, especially. Okay, where are we at? Which one is this? This is EDEC. Okay, this one is, whoops. Just imagine that was a loud boom. This is my light bill, and the pen is pointing at the amount. And I don't know if you can see that or not, or if you can blow it up, but that's about as good as I'm going to get it. 137,000 pesos and some change. That amounts to, at today's exchange rate, which is 34.20 when I looked earlier this morning, $40.12. That's my electric for the month. This was a little bit on the high side. And what it was at its best moment, because this is where the question came in, we were around 4,000 for a while, 38, 4,000. So what is that in real dollars? Well, right now the electric bill is $40. If we were back when it was at 4,000, it would have been $34.30. Okay, that's the electric bill. Now, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Come back. Okay. Now we get to the gas bill. The gas bill this month, which was pretty typical, is 21,609 pesos. So today it's $6.32. And when things were great at 4,000, the exchange rate, it was $5.40. That would have been the equivalent. I hope this is answering the question that this is all based on, because I imagine you're probably watching. Now we're at water bill. The water bill is 65,376 pesos. That amounts to, as of today, $19. And when it was at 4,000 pesos, was $16. There. Blackberry juice. I've become addicted to it. And here, this is my internet. It's at 90,000. This, I don't get a paper bill. This was, I just had to copy it out of the email. And it's already paid. My internet is $26.31 today. At 4,000, it would have been $22.50. That extra money I always called windfall, because you can't spend the money that represents. You really need to make worst case about 2,500 and make all your plans between 2,500 and 2,800, because it can drop down around there. It doesn't really go lower unless, I don't know, the earth comes to an end or something, but that's like worst case. So when you're renting or making whatever plans, you keep that in mind. Okay, so this is my cell phone. This is per month, and this is actually copied out of my text messages on my phone, because again, I don't get paper bills. And this one, when I pay it online, I can't open up to see what it was. I can't see what I paid. But my cell phone is 27,990. We'll say 28,000 pesos per month. That's for data and calls, and there's a certain amount of calls I can make to the US. You know, your typical. And that at today's rate is $8.19 a month. And at the 4,000 pesos, that would have been $7 even. Okay, let me move these out of the way. And rent. Now, obviously, the higher the dollar amounts, the greater the effect. Oh, groceries. I can't really see this one, and that's going to vary. This one in particular, because I was once a month, I buy up like extra stuff, keep on the shelves and whatever. And then after that, through the month, I just get fruits and vegetables and, perishable things. And this one was about 230,000. And so that's one of my heavy ones. And then after that, the others will be typically 80,000 to maybe 120,000. And so you get 3 or 4 of those a month plus this one. I think it's safe to say that your grocery bills, of course, it all depends on what you eat and how you eat. But you could probably be somewhere between 400,000, 800,000. Unless you're going out and eating at a high-end restaurant every day, which of course that will throw it off. Now my rent. Now this is just the receipt from the bank, but you can see it's 1,100,000. So for today, that's $321.64. When it was at 4,000 pesos, that was $275. You see there's quite a difference there. And at 2,500, which is what I calculate as the lowest, it's $392, almost $400. And when I was out looking for apartments, my limit was $400, and that's why, because or $400 if it was at 2,500, because I could spend up to $400, but what if the peso dropped down? So if I got a place at $400 and it dropped to 2,500, then what? I couldn't afford it. So hope this makes sense. So I put myself in a limit of I can't go over $400 if the pesos were at 2,500. This place was the high end of what I could spend. So I hope that helps. Hope that answers those questions. And what we have here comes with advertising. Oh, that was from the email. Okay, so where are we at? It's Q&A time. It's time to start asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question. Okay, let's go. Let's get those questions answered. I see there's 30 of you online. We're still on the low side, but it's picking up a little bit. For a couple weeks, we're only around 20 or so during the live, and then an hour or two later, all of a sudden people would start coming in. I don't know if it was a time change or if it's football season, although the games don't start this early, but I see it's been picking up a little. Something to consider. I think if the exchange rate goes low enough, it would cut off some lower and government pension recipients out of eligibility for retirement visas. Well, it definitely can have an effect, except it's calculated annually. So they establish it, at the certain time of the year. I think it's in the fall they establish it, and so for 1 year, that's the amount. So regardless of where the peso rises or falls during that time period, it's a certain amount. Right now, it's about $800. So if you have $800 pension and you get your visa within the next year, then it shouldn't matter. But then again, the peso, it's kind of like the stock exchange. It does these. So that's I don't stress about it. I don't worry about it. Now it does suck at the time because right now I'm out about $200 a month in extra income, and as you know, I don't have a lot to begin with. Now, what was I doing with that? I was doing extra things. It's where I was able to save up for the car, along with I wasn't going out during the lockdown. A lot of things that I got some decent cookware. So I was using that as what it is. It was like windfall profit, things that I normally couldn't really buy, I would buy. What I didn't do is lock it down into my basic overhead because I know it changes. So you have to treat it as a windfall profit. You don't want to plan your life around on the higher end. And then it's not a big deal. And for me, as it's dropping, it's not a problem. My life is already planned for a lower amount. I will say that I've noticed when I went grocery shopping a few days ago that some of the items in the grocery store are starting to move up, and I haven't seen price increases in a number of years, really. It hasn't gotten crazy, but there's some things that are moving up, like beer, for example. Beer has been going up, and bread has been going up. Some basic items have been moving up a little bit. I know the program is about Colombia, but do you consider Ecuador stable economically? Hell no. They've got massive debt issues. They're living off the borrowed dollar. Yeah, I see it corrected. It is not it's not really a stable economy. Mike, thank you. Yes, go Bills. Canadian, $6.99. I greatly appreciate the contribution. Help offset the peso rate. Now, anything that comes through here actually goes into the channel, so I don't have to personally carry that burden anymore. The Bills, yeah, I mean they're looking good. It's been tough for a diehard fan. I don't watch any other football because of what's been going on with the NFL and all of that. And it's pretty pathetic. I was watching that game yesterday, crystal clear on TV. People ask me all the time. I use Cody, and I just go to a live sports app and call it up. But what was pathetic is there they are in Denver, which is about the same altitude as here. And they were showing these cardboard cutouts in the stand. And it really struck me. I mean, this is crazy. In Buffalo Bills Stadium, they just have empty seats because that's what it is. These cardboard cutouts. My first thought is if they're paying at least $10, and I'm sure there's more, and they had these in the lower deck of that stadium, which has got to be about 50,000 seats times at least $10 a piece. I think it was of the season ticket holders. Isn't that just wasting the money? I mean, I don't know. I had weird feelings about that. I'm thinking you got people that, are out of work. They're having to deal with these draconian rules in various places, and you're throwing it away on fake people in seats that, I don't know. I probably shouldn't go there. It just really struck me. Do you know anything about the area north of Alcala? Are there markets out there? I don't know. Mark, I love that last name. Awesome name. I don't know where that is. Let me take a look. Let me see what talk amongst yourselves there for a moment. See where. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I do know where it is. It's such a hole in the wall. It's halfway to Cartago. I don't know much about it. I've only been through there. Well, I've been through there probably a dozen times, but I only went through to actually notice what was going on once. And I was going to do some video. I don't know much about it, but what was your question about market? Are there markets? There's markets everywhere, grocery stores. So, I mean, that's not a problem. Are you sure there weren't computer generated and not cutouts? No, they were. You could see them moving in the breeze, and no, they look like cutouts. There was light reflections on them. Am I sure? No, I'm not sure. But if they were computer generated, somebody spent an awful lot of time on it. No, they look like cardboard cutouts with screen print of maybe a season ticket holder. That would be my guess. I was wondering if you and Mark were related. Actually, no. My name is it's an adopted name. My father's name was not Lau. When the masks come off, then I will watch football again. Yeah, I feel you. The only, like I started to say, I don't watch any football anymore, and that's not even to do with some of the craziness that's been going on. It's just I got so much to do. I just don't have time to do it. I feel these days that I'm wasting my time watching it, and the only thing I'll watch is Buffalo Bills. I've got ties to that team. I used to, when I lived there, I would be invited to various events and various fundraisers. And back in the 90s, I knew a lot of the players on the team because I socialized with them. I had a different life at that time. And I'm not saying I was high roller, but I would attend events like that. And when after a while, you build an affinity that's almost like family. And so, of course, I have an interest, and despite all the things that are going on, I'll be a Bills fan forever because of those things. Isn't it between Finlandia and Carthago? It's kind of halfway between Armenia and Carthago, but yes, you're correct. Those weren't cardboard cutouts. They were all stoners in Colorado. Yeah, it was just striking. It just seemed like the ultimate in silliness. It's like, what is the purpose of this? And then, that was my first thought. And then my second thought was, my God, how much money could they have spent? I mean, if it's like 50,000 people, because it looked like it was the lower stands. And if they're $10, and probably more, but I say a minimum of $10, I mean, that's $500,000, isn't it? It just seemed crazy. President is always begging me for money. I don't really think it's really him. I'm not following that one. Okay. Any other questions? Last call. Are there any open spaces near Armenia for stargazing? Tons. And I get what you're saying. You can't really stargaze if you've got light pollution. And you can find tons of places here where you won't have light pollution. It's not a problem. There is so much countryside here that actually, even on the road from here to Pereira at night, and there's houses and things along the way, but you look up at the sky and it's just vibrant and sparkling, and it's just pretty amazing that the sky kind of comes alive. But yeah, if you get up in the hill where the guy fell, for example, just don't take selfies edge of the cliff. But if you get up there, there's absolutely no light pollution. There's lots of places to go. I can even here, if I look the opposite side, look away from Armenia, it's, you know, as long as it's not too cloudy, and it's usually not, if I had a telescope, you could see what, you know, you could see. Okay, I'm at a loss for words here. The sky looks pretty clear if I'm looking away from Armenia. When I lived at my last place, there was a patio on the very top of the building, and there's one here too, but I just haven't gone up there. But if I looked to a certain part of the sky, it was pretty clear, but there was some light pollution. Astrophotography. Yeah, okay, so you're not going to do that like I was just talking about, but if you get just a couple miles out of Armenia, yes. Yep. Okay, last call. All right. So we're gonna call it a wrap. Thank you all for showing up. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the contribution. Thank you. And some of you I'll be seeing in the next month or two. Oh, all right. One more here. Spray is safe, and the people there is welcoming as Armenia. It depends on where you are. I don't like the city, and like every city, it has its dangerous areas. It's, you know, in my mind, it's an unsafe place, because when I lived there 20 years ago, it was pretty crazy. It was like the Wild West. That was back with the FARC and 50% unemployment, and it was tough times. Today, it's not like that, and you have areas of the city that are as safe as anywhere. You know, there is the city safe? It's an impossible question, because it really depends on where you're talking about. Now, when I walked through that neighborhood, my Pareda video showed you almost a suburb kind of a neighborhood, perfectly safe, no worries there. But if you're around the Simon Bolivar Park that I showed in that video, and it's 9 or 10 o'clock at night, you got a pretty good chance of being pickpocketed or something like that, just because there's so many people there that, well, we'll just say they're impoverished, a lot of Venezuelan refugees. It's kind of like, you know, the vultures are congregating, you know. You go where it's easy picking. So you just stay away from those areas. Are they as welcoming? There's no place like Armenia. You know, it's why the slogan for Armenia is Amable. I mean, people are so friendly here, and that's known throughout Colombia. If you say where are the friendliest people, they'll very often say Armenia, because it's just well known. Safety is relative to location. Absolutely. The safety thing, I've covered this in a number of videos, but it's almost I don't want to be insulting to you, because I completely understand the motive of the question, but it's almost nonsensical, because just on Facebook yesterday, there's a guy from Japan, and he's going to Medellin. And there's been a lot of incidents in Medellin lately. It's getting kind of sketchy, especially in the evening. It's when you have desperate people, and you have your safe areas. But I just told him, be careful, because there's this little spike. I'm sure, they're going to clamp down on it, but there's this spike. So I said, be careful. And so then somebody says, oh, Medellin, it's the safest city. And then they do the usual. Well, New York City is dangerous compared to Medellin or Chicago, da 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 da. Okay, New York City. Where in New York City? I mean, are you talking about Queens at 2:00 in the morning? Are you talking about Manhattan at 12:00 in the afternoon? You see, it all depends. It depends. So the safety is less about where you're going and more about you. It's more about using common sense. It's more about not wearing gold chains around your neck or, Rolex watches. You just don't want to. And this is anywhere. This is in New York. This is in Chicago. This is in Medellin. You don't want to. I'm not paranoid. I use my cell phone, but you don't really want to be too flashy about things. If you're going to go out drinking, that's not my scene anymore. I mean, I'm home in bed before dark usually, with a few exceptions. And even then I'll take taxi right home. But if you're in that lifestyle, then make sure you go with a group of people. Don't go alone. Don't be wandering home half drunk at 2:00 in the morning anywhere, because you're just putting a billboard on your head saying, rob me. Don't don't give papaya. No dark papaya. The name of my restaurant across the street, Dark Papaya. So, your safety is really, for the most part, in your hands. Now, there'll be some exceptions, but, I like a place like Armenia because those things they're not even a concern, because we have areas of the city that, I wouldn't want to walk through at 2:00 in the morning, but for the most part, most of this city, the places that you'd want to go are perfectly fine. And I like that. The bigger city, the more issue you have, because the more money can be made there. So, okay. On that note, we're going to end it here. So thank you. Appreciate it. See you next week.